flag of our nation. And oath of heart. Ready to begin? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, if we can have the roll call and posting of the agenda info, please.
Member Lopez? Here. Member Ramirez is absent. Chair McDonald?
Here.
Chair, we have a quorum, and the agenda for this meeting was posted in the City Hall kiosk on Tuesday, March 3rd.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we move to public comments on items not on the agenda. I see no one from the public here, so I will presume there are no comments. Councilmember, have you had a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting?
Yes, I'll recommend approval.
Okay, then that'll be the direction. The minutes are approved. So, reports, Police Department, Office of Traffic Safety, Select Traffic Enforcement Program Grant. Commander.
Good afternoon. The first grant I'm here to talk about is the Office of Traffic Safety Selective Traffic Enforcement Grant Program. And our objectives here today are to seek approval to take this to City Council for an approval through a resolution and to provide a brief overview of the Selective Traffic Enforcement Program grant. The grant funding is provided by the California Office of Traffic Safety, and it's used to reduce the number of persons killed and injured in traffic collisions involving DUI, driving under the influence or driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and other primary collision factors. Part of the grant uses are enforcement, and those are most visibly seen with our impaired driver checkpoints that you see throughout the city. There's also enforcement details for high collision areas in the city where there's a lot of traffic collisions where they've caused injuries and fatalities. Distracted driving enforcement, enforcement for pedestrian, motorcyclists, bicyclists, related violations. And those are not just focused on the motorist, but they're also focused on the bicyclist, pedestrian, and motorcyclist committing violations which could cause collisions, and also seatbelt compliance. There's also an education component to the grant funding. This provides funding for education in our schools, smart teen driver safety programs, know your limit driver impaired programs where the officers actually go out with a alcohol device that the patrons can blow in where they're at an establishment that serves alcohol, and it gives them a non-consequential breath sample and shows them how much they've had to drink, whether they're under or over the limit to be driving. And they also provide education for programs that can give them a ride home, talk about what would happen if they received a DUI and the consequences of that. We also have a Choose Your Ride campaign, which is the old police car that's painted half taxi, half police car. We take those to public events to show the consequences of driving impaired. We've received the Selective Traffic Enforcement Program grant since fiscal year 2012-2013. These are run on the federal fiscal year that starts in October and runs through September 30th. Last fiscal year received $400,000. This year we're asking for a little over $435,000. And just to give an overview of what this grant funding would provide, it would be 12 DUI checkpoints, 30 DUI enforcement operations, which are officers that are out on patrol specifically looking for impaired drivers, 10 traffic enforcement operations for pedestrian and bicycle violations. And again, those are not only focused on the motorists that are causing violations that put our pedestrians and bicyclists at risk, it's also focusing on pedestrian and bicyclists that are putting themselves at risk. 15 traffic enforcement operations for collision-causing traffic offenses. That could be speed, running red lights, running stop signs, failure to yield. 8 traffic enforcement operations for distracted driving. That's using a cell phone or other device while operating a motor vehicle. 6 traffic enforcement operations for motorcycle safety specifically. 8 traffic safety educational presentations, and those are done at schools, community events, and those type of areas that gather the most audience. And 8 Know Your Limit campaigns, and again, that's when our officers go out to establishments in Oxnard that serve alcohol, and they conduct these campaigns with the patrons of the business, with the cooperation of the business owner. And it also provides training for 27 officers in DUI and DUID. It's driving under the influence of alcohol and driving under the influence of drugs. Investigations to better educate the officers in how to locate an impaired driver, to provide the steps needed for the report process and the court process to get a conviction for an impaired driver arrest. And now I'm prepared to answer any questions that you may have about the grant.
I don't have any questions. Just a comment in general. I appreciate that this is a full spectrum enforcement opportunity or effort. And I guess my biggest concern is in the downtown core, there seem to be groups of people that think traffic signals don't apply to them in any way, shape, or form, and they just wander against red lights and really mess up traffic and everything else. And I probably get a little overagitated, but you know, it'll be nice to see us do something to get them back on the right plane of obeying the laws. So, good job. Thank you very much. Councilmember, any questions?
Yes, I do have a question, and I'm not sure if it may apply in this, but is the Know Your Limit campaigns, is there any relation to where they are done, the locations that are selected?
They select those locations from poll data, and that's the place to
Okay.
last drink. It's information that's compiled from people who are arrested for driving under the influence. And the Behavioral Health of Ventura County does a survey of the people arrested, and they ask them, where did you take your last drink at before you were arrested? All that information is compiled. It's a little bit behind as far as when it's released to us, but we do get information from last year, and then we do have to rely on how many people respond to the survey. But we look at those establishments that have a high number of people who are arrested, and that was where they listed their place of last drink was. And we also go to the establishment and seek cooperation from the establishment first. We don't just come in there, and because we want their cooperation in not only training their employees how to not overserve, and I recognize somebody who's had too much to drink, but also in recognize the patrons, you know, and how to educate them.
Perfect. Thank you. You answered that question, and you know, looking at what the grant covers and how much work falls under it, I think it's a great program and a lot that is being done with that amount of money. So thank you to the entire department.
Thank you.
And the request is that we approve this and move it forward to council. If that's okay with you, we'll
I
make
will
that
second
direction.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good. Thank you. And so is this like the Commander Schattinger show today?
I think so. I tried to get somebody else to put something on the agenda to help me
Yeah.
out here.
1 star versus 3 or 4 stars, you're at a disadvantage, but that's okay.
So the city manager's asked me to clearly state my name for the record. So it's actually Commander Denise Schadinger. A lot of people, it's pronounced several different ways, but I use Schadinger. So.
Schadinger? Okay.
Schadinger, yes.
I apologize. I will not mess it up in the
That's
future.
okay.
I've only known you for like 30 years. You'd think I'd get
I
it right by
know, I
now,
know.
but
All right. All right, so this next grant that we're applying for is actually one that I'm probably the most excited about. It's a little bit different and one that we haven't applied for in the past. And this is the pedestrian and bicycle safety grant offered by, again, the California Office of Traffic Safety. This is more an educational focused grant. And again, our objectives are to seek your approval to take this to council, to approve our application through a resolution, and provide you a brief overview of the grant. So the grant funding for this grant has the goal of reducing the number of persons killed and injured in traffic collisions involving pedestrian and bicyclists. And as you know, last year we did have a number of pedestrians, including an 8-year-old child that was killed in a traffic collision. This year we're asking for a little over $46,000. And when we were approached by the Office of Traffic Safety and we looked at how much we could do with this education, they actually asked us to apply for more money. However, we weren't going to be able to use all the money based on the number of personnel that we had and the number of events that we could actually physically do. Next year, we would probably look at increasing that and probably partnering up with other agencies or other departments within the city to expand the focus of this grant. This grant's going to provide classroom education, community events, presentations, workshops, and collaborate with other city departments, school districts, and public health officials. And some of the uses are, we're going to have a dedicated pedestrian and bicycle safety coordinator. This is going to be somebody who's already assigned to the traffic unit. And as part of their duties, they'll coordinate the efforts of this grant. We're going to collaborate with the traffic engineer's office and have monthly or quarterly meetings with them to determine areas in the city that need focus related to pedestrian and bicycle safety, and have an ongoing dialogue with them about this issue, as it's something that we haven't done in the past. Public involvement and feedback, we're going to work to have something added to the 311 app or enhance what is already there, where members of the community can report areas of concern with relation to pedestrian safety, crosswalk safety, bicycle lanes, etc. And provide educational materials, bicycle helmets, and bicycle inspections to members of our community. Some of the uses are on our education is we're going to have a formalized pedestrian and bicycle safety education program. That's something that we haven't done before. We want to make presentations that are audience relevant, but also able to go to a broad audience at a community event and provide as much information as possible. And some of the areas we want to specifically focus on in our community are the senior and school-age populations, and some of our underserved populations in areas where where pedestrian and bicycle commuting is probably more prevalent than other areas in the community. We're also going to look at the Safe Routes to School program, and that's working with the Southern California area of governments. They have a program that develops a walking school bus. We're going to participate in the National Walk to School Day and really promote these to school-age children, provide education to parents and community members about safe routes to school, what to look out for if you're a driver in the area and there's school-age children, what laws they should be obeying around schools, and how to really, not only as a driver, watch out for pedestrians, but as a parent and as a pedestrian, keep yourself safe in those areas. We also have the opportunity to do bicycle rodeos, and with the funding, we can provide bicycle helmets to those that aren't able to purchase them themselves or that have helmets that aren't sufficient for riding a bicycle. How to properly wear a helmet, as I think we've all seen children that are riding it with it unstrapped or a helmet that's too large, and provide bicycle inspections at these rodeos for safety items for kids that are riding either bicycles that are too large for them or bicycles that need repair. We have partners in the community that are willing to do repairs on bicycles. And then we're also going to have a public safety announcement component to that on our social media and the city's social media next door to really get out information and safety tips to maybe someone who can attend a community event, who can attend a specific presentation, but will have those tips ready for them, or at the ready for them and available when they need them. And again, what we're out, oh, I think I've exited completely out of this. We're asking for a little over 43,000, 46,000. And I'm prepared to answer any questions. And again, this is the first time we've applied for this grant.
Okay, any questions?
Yes. Is there any of these efforts that will be available in Spanish?
Yes, there will be all the educational materials written, and then we also will be provided in English and Spanish, and we also have Spanish-speaking officers that can provide either Spanish-specific or English and Spanish presentations.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, the request is that we approve this and move it forward to council. If that meets with your approval, that'll be the direction.
Yes, sir.
We're good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any future agenda items? No? With that, we will adjourn the meeting. Mr. City Manager, did you want to say something or? No? Thank you. We are finished.